where we dive deep into the world of rare coins, forgotten currency, and fascinating stories behind everyday money. Today, we're setting our sights on a coin that might seem ordinary to some, but holds a place of great historical and numismatic significance: the 1970 Roosevelt Dime. Before we get into the details, let me welcome you back with appreciation for joining me on another journey through American coin history. My name is, and today we're uncovering every known detail about the 1970 Roosevelt Dime. From its creation context and cultural significance to its production variations, collector value, and the stories behind its presence in the pockets of Americans during a transformative decade. To begin with, we must first explore the origin of the Roosevelt Dime itself, which emerged in 1946, just months after the death of President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who passed away in April 1945. Roosevelt had guided the nation through the Great Depression and most of World War II, and was widely beloved particularly for his leadership and humanitarian efforts. He was also instrumental in founding the March of Dimes, which played a major role in combating polio. The decision to honor Roosevelt on the dime made sense both politically and symbolically, replacing the winged Liberty Head dime, often mistakenly called the Mercury dime, which had been in circulation since 1916. The new Roosevelt dime was designed by chief engraver John R. Sinnock, whose initials JS appear at the base of Roosevelt's neck, and were for a time the subject of public controversy due to an unfortunate misunderstanding that they might stand for Joseph Stalin at the height of post-war anti-Soviet sentiment. Now fast forward to 1970, an era of enormous change in American society, politically, economically, and culturally. The Vietnam War was still raging. Social movements were reshaping public life, and the American economy was adjusting to new global realities and inflationary pressures. It was during this time that the United States Mint continued its production of the Roosevelt Dime, with little change in design but considerable change in material and minting strategy. The 1970 Roosevelt Dime was part of a broader transition in U.S. coinage following the Coinage Act of 1965, which had eliminated silver from the dime and quarter and reduced it in the half-dollar coins made after 1965, including the 1970 Roosevelt Dime, were composed of a clad combination of copper and nickel with an inner core of pure copper and outer layers of copper-nickel. This composition gave the coin a silvery appearance without actual silver content, significantly altering the intrinsic value of the coin for both collectors and users. Now, when we focus specifically on the 1970 Roosevelt Dime, there are several varieties and mint marks that tell a deeper story. There were dimes struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which carried no mint mark at that time, and those from the Denver Mint marked with a D. Additionally, there were special proof versions struck at the San Francisco Mint, bearing the S mint mark. The Philadelphia issues were the most common and were intended for general circulation, with hundreds of millions minted and distributed across the country. The Denver issues were also circulated widely, but carried their own distinctive features in terms of strike and detail. However, the most sought-after pieces by collectors are the proof coins from San Francisco, particularly the 1970 S proof dimes. These coins were never intended for circulation and were produced in smaller numbers for inclusion in proof sets sold to collectors. They were made with polished dies and planchets, giving them a mirror-like finish and highly detailed imagery over time. Several varieties and errors emerged in the 1970 Roosevelt Dime series, including double dies repunched mint marks, off-center strikes, and even coins struck on incorrect planchets, which today are highly valuable and often sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Depending on grade, rarity, and condition, among these rarities is the 1970 No S proof Roosevelt Dime, a mistake where the S mint mark was mistakenly left off the die, and a number of proof dimes were struck without the mark, making them extraordinarily rare and desirable to collectors. Only a handful are known to exist, and these coins represent one of the greatest modern rarities in American numismatics. Turning to the coin's design, we see on the obverse the dignified profile of Franklin D. Roosevelt facing left, his name inscribed to the left with the word liberty. Arching above his head, the motto, "In God We Trust," sits below his chin. And the date, 1970, appears just to the right. It's a simple yet powerful design capturing the strength and humility of one of the most influential presidents in U.S. history on the reverse. We find the torch symbolizing liberty, flanked by an olive branch for peace and an oak branch for strength, with the words United States of America and E pluribus unum above. And below the denomination 1 dime. The arrangement balances symbolism with clarity, making the Roosevelt Dime one of the most recognizable and respected pieces of circulating U.S. coinage to truly appreciate the 1970 dime. We must consider its place in the broader scope of coin collecting and monetary history. By 1970, coin collecting had exploded in popularity in America, driven by rising interest in silver coins, coin shows, televised auctions, and the growing numismatic press. As silver coins were withdrawn from circulation, more people turned to collecting as a hobby and an investment. The Roosevelt dime, being a relatively small and accessible coin, became a popular entry point for new collectors, and variations like the 1970 no S proof and other minting errors added layers of intrigue and competition to the pursuit in terms of value. The 1970 Roosevelt dime is typically worth its face value in circulated condition, but when uncirculated or in proof condition, especially with recognized errors or varieties, the value can rise dramatically. Professional grading by organizations such as PCGS and NGC further contributes to the coin's prestige, with coins graded MS or PR67 and higher fetching strong premiums at auction. Today, the Roosevelt dime continues to be minted with minimal design changes, serving as both a workhorse of U.S. currency and a piece of numismatic art that honors a president who transformed America in times of crisis. By diving deeply into the 1970 version, we discover more than metal and mint marks. We uncover a story of economic transition, artistic legacy, presidential remembrance, and the subtle mysteries that make coin collecting such a compelling passion, from how these coins were struck and distributed to the way they've been treasured, preserved, or lost to time. Each dime tells a story not just of its moment, in 1970, but of America itself in the decades before and since. Whether you're here to learn about its history, start collecting, or simply appreciate the beauty and legacy of American coinage, I thank you for spending your time with me on this deep exploration of the 1970 Roosevelt dime. There's so much more to share, and in the next parts of this series, we'll examine individual minting errors, deeper grading analysis, and hear from collectors who found rare examples in the most unexpected places. So stay tuned, subscribe, and drop a comment if you've ever come across a 1970 Roosevelt dime, or if you'd like to know more about a particular coin, because in every pocket change jar and old drawer lies a potential treasure and maybe even a piece of history you didn't know you had.